KTAR. We want to welcome you to our radio station, and as a matter of fact, I wanted to offer afterwards, I assure you there's more to this than the conference room, and anybody that wants to take a peek at the studios and places that, you know, the real people work, Mac at Gatos and the Morning News, I can show you afterwards and take you on a little tour of our facility here. We're really proud of the radio stations that we have here. We're proud of the work that KTAR does, and one of the things that really got us started on this is, for myself, bringing your life onto the radio is a way that you can connect with people. And I am a great example of someone who struggles, if you will, was struggling with what to do with my home. And I talked about it on the radio. I had been told by some people, and some of you may have heard this as well, I read articles in the New York Times and Time Magazine that the trendy thing to do was, if you were upside down in your house and you weren't ever going to get out of it, that you should just mail your keys back or just walk away from the house. And that people were doing this, and there were all these stories. There was a 60-minute story of somebody, they've been living in their house for 2 years in Anthem, and you know, waiting to mail the keys in. And I talked about it on the air, and I said, well, I mean, maybe that's what I should do, and I'm obviously in a situation like a lot of other people. I did not buy in at the top of the market even. I bought my house in 1999 in Ahwatukee. I refinanced to get out from underneath my private mortgage insurance about 3-4 years later. And my house appraised 2 weeks ago for $15,000 less than my original purchase price. So I didn't even buy in at that top and go the other direction. My house isn't worth what I built it. I built it, it was a dirt lot. We built it back in 1999. So one of the real things that I had to do is remove the emotion from this and look at it as a business decision, and look at it as the business of myself, my family, my own bank account, my own savings, my own earnings, and what made the most sense. And thankfully, as talking about on the radio and talking about making horrible, horrible decisions, Marge Peck actually emailed me and said, stop what you're doing, you're making a mistake. And I got this email, and we said, well, we ought to talk to her, you know, and we invited Marge on the radio to come in, and Marge spent the better part of an hour chastising me for all the horrible things that I'd heard, for listening to a bunch of idiots, for believing what the neighbor told me or what I read in a newspaper somewhere as gospel, and that I needed to be a lot smarter with the decisions that I make. And I admit, what I didn't know was a heck of a lot more than what I did know. I'm far from an expert today, but boy do I know a lot more about the process than I did when I started this about a year ago. It's been, a year ago is when I started talking about it on the radio. So that you know, my house is, we currently have an offer. We have a short sale offer, and we're negotiating. Is that the pleasant way to say it with Wells Fargo?
we're a breath from our approval.
Yes, we're very, very close to an approval letter, and that'll mean a lot to me to be able to get out from under that and move forward and understand the things that I'm going to do. So I got a lot of bad advice along the way before I met Marge, and I believed a lot of things as truisms that turned out to not be true. And it's one of the reasons why, if you've heard any of Marge's commercials or you've heard her talk, she talks about how important it is that you know what your choices are. So many people who are going through foreclosure, who are going through financial difficulties, who are behind on their payments, believe that they just have to sit there and wait for things to happen to them. And it was very empowering for me, after I had a chance to sit down with Marge, to know that there were things that I could control, there were decisions that I could make, and that I could make smart decisions for my future and not just sit around and wait for someone to come knock on the door, or you know, a sheriff or somebody to show up. And I'm very, very thankful for that. And it started our relationship, and it continues. So we thought it would be a good idea that I get so many emails. I pass them on to Marge, I promise, every one of them. I get so many phone calls from people that say, my situation is like yours, but a little bit different. Or what about this? Or I have a question about that. And we thought this would be a great idea to get everybody together and really put together a panel of experts, of people who can help answer these questions. And for you, the idea is hear it from the horse's mouth, hear it from the experts themselves, and hopefully you walk away from here at the end of the night, you've learned something, you're smarter than when you walked in the door, and for your own personal situation, you're going to find a little bit of comfort, you're going to find some solace, and I would like to think you're going to walk out with a clearer idea of what it is you can do. What I'm going to do is we'll introduce everybody on the panel here, and we're going to also have time for questions at the end. I don't know if you saw, we have the yellow cards. We have yellow question cards, and you can ask any question you want on that. We're going to pass them up. The Dare Angels will be walking around, grabbing those and bringing them up here, and we're going to get to as many of your questions as we can. We also have the white card you might have seen if you got one of these. You can fill this out. We're going to have a drawing at the end of the night where we're having four different drawings for gift certificates for that, get some information from you. It also gives you a chance if you want to speak more, if you want a one-on-one, Marge and her team will be available, and you can make an appointment at the end of the night to really talk about that. I think it'd be better if people introduce themselves, don't you? I want to give people a chance to talk about themselves and start a little bit. So I'll start with our panel of experts, and let's start with Leanne.
No, you don't have to stand, for goodness sakes.
Good evening, my name is Leanne Scrimshire, and I am the lending lady with Aaron Lending, and obviously I do lending and help people to find their solutions when they're looking to purchase a home or maybe refinance a home and find a good solution for them and help answer questions.
I'm going to stand.
I
like to look at people in the face. My name is Kaveh Mostafavi with Mostafavi Market Wimmer. I'm a bankruptcy attorney and have been my entire career. The reason I come to these events and work with Marge is, you know, you all have your preconceived notions about attorneys, and I hear them every single day from our clients. So a lot of them are true, and what we like to do is just advocate that there is free information out there. All our consultations are free, and we do debt analyses. We don't push you into bankruptcy. We want to analyze your debt situation. So, and we also like to educate you guys. So, and ask as many questions as you have.
Hi, my name is Marge Peck, and I'm with Discover Arizona Real Estate. My clients have dubbed me the Aaron Brockovich of short sales. And I kind of feel like some of us are saying, who's my advocate with the lenders? I won't pick on any lenders, because to me they're all the same. You have to have somebody that knows how to do probably the ugliest transaction I've done in 30 years in real estate, but I'm proud of the fact that our team knows how to do it, and we do it very, very well. The failure rate of a short sale nationwide is anywhere between 70 to 85% failure rate, and we're pretty proud to say that we knock it out of the park at about a 90% success ratio. And we just don't let go. We just don't let go. We really feel that the situation you're in, the first 2 years I did short sales, I came home and I cried because I ached for every situation that every homeowner told me the hardship was. And now it's to the point I don't cry as much because I'm on the phone with the lenders and we take it very, very seriously. I want to thank the panel that's here tonight. I'd love to tell you I can do all this by myself. Everybody that's wearing a shirt that says Dare Angels, they're either on my team, the gentleman in the back with the grayer hair, that's my husband, Mike Peck. He is the designated broker for our company. He's my partner. We all go out. 5 years ago, they were working with buyers, and I was doing the listings. Now my whole team, we go out and we help homeowners that are in this awful situation. You've got another handout that Bruce didn't talk about, that it actually shows the ownership of the property that you registered with. And a little bit later, I'll explain what those pictures are, because we researched everybody's home so that you could have a quick picture of, at least a short picture of what your scenario is. My team has worked with me for the last 3 days to put this together. I want to thank my team. I want to thank my son and Charlie for being here and helping with audio and taping this so we can put this on our website. Because I know 7 out of 10 of your friends are in the same situation you are, and it took a lot of courage to come tonight. And I thank you for being here. I thank the team of experts that are here, because these are my buddies. They make it happen right along with me. Mr. Walker.
Thank you. I'm Mark Walker from Lawyers Title. We handle the behind-the-scenes aspects of the real estate transactions. There's a lot of paperwork that go into completing a short sale. There's a lot of data that needs to be pulled together, settlement statements that need to be generated for the approval letters to take place, and our offices, which are spread around the valley. We've got 14 offices here in town. Have become very proficient at handling the short sale process and working through that. So I applaud everybody for their attendance here tonight. I think one of the things that's so critical in this current environment that we're in is that you do get educated, you find out what your options are, and so that you can make the informed decisions that are necessary in many of the scenarios that a lot of us are facing right now.
My name is Rex Duffin, and I'm with Sun American Mortgage, Vice President there for the past, been there 26 years. And I would also like to congratulate you for being here and for doing something about the situation and becoming educated. It's amazing how many rumors there are about what to do in certain situations. And in all my years in the business too, I just would like to give some kudos to Marge Peck and her team. Her program for short sales is the best I've ever seen, bar none. And so when she says something, everybody needs to listen. I know I do. So anyway, I'm just glad to be here, and hopefully we can answer some of your questions regarding financing tonight.
Chris Cutter with Homeowners Financial Group. Thank you so much, Mark, for allowing me to come. One of the things you're all going to have is a lot of questions. The mortgage industry has evolved, and it's tough. But between Rex and Leanne, I think all of us can answer some questions. I have my son, Casey. You're not going to get out, stand up. If you have any questions, I have my son here. You're welcome to talk to him. Don't be shy. You're all going to have some questions. Thank you.
All right, you guys can hold on to the microphone. I don't need it. So I do want to encourage you all to fill out those yellow cards if you have some questions that are more specific, or if you think that we don't get to them. So what I thought we would do is I'll ask some of the questions. Some of them will be the personal ones and the things that I started with, and some of them will be some of the ones that Marge and her team have said, we get these a lot. So hopefully a lot of the standard ones we can get out of the way in a group setting like this, if that works for everyone. I also, it would be remiss if I didn't thank Garcia's, and we really appreciate them, and hopefully everybody got a chance to get something to eat. So, there's still plenty back there. You won't offend us by getting something more to eat. And because we are taping it, if I could ask that you make sure that your cell phones are on mute at least. Kind of like a movie theater, I'd ask you to be polite about that. We had a lot more people sign up for this than we had room for, so this entire thing will be put up on Marge's website for people that couldn't make it, and then just so you guys know, we plan on doing more of these down the road because there's obviously a large need for answers, and there's a lot of people out there. If you believe the numbers, it's somewhere around 70% of the people in this county alone are in a situation where they're upside down and need to make smart decisions for themselves. So, what do you want? You want me to just start and work my way down the line? How do you want to do that?
Maybe
What do you
we should
think?
start with the handout we gave.
Start with the handout. Let's start with that. Everybody, when you came in, got a handout. I didn't get one in front of me, but I've seen the one that you have in front of you because Marge came to my house and showed me mine, and I almost threw up when it was explained to me. So do you want to help explain a little bit what they see? Start with what the little red dot is in the middle of that map.
The little red dot in the middle of that map is the address you gave us that you registered with. Now some of you this may be your personal home, you may have been calling about an investment home. We just decided to use the address you gave us. All the little green boxes that say ACT are homes that are active on the market. Those could be bank-owned homes. Those could be homes that are for sale, that are short sales, and those little gavels, the little black light
The little
cans,
black hammers.
the little black hammers, those are homes that are officially in foreclosure. Those are.
That was my reaction, by the way, so that you guys know. I went, what?
The second page that I printed out for you, on the first page is going to tell you what your tax base is, the cash valuation is, what you're being taxed on, and it will probably show you that your property has devalued since you purchased it. Okay, which again, you're not the only person on the Titanic. Just remember, get into a lifeboat when you can. There's some different things that will affect you. The second page is going to show you what, just a rough look. I didn't have time to do 70-some properties at a full market evaluation, but I do realize that most of you will not be getting any equity out of your home. What we have to do is find the sweet spot that we can justify the price to the lender. Right now, can I use your home, Bruce?
Please, be my guest.
We had an offer on Bruce's home of $220,000. The bank countered it at $245,000, to which we usually very politely say to them, did you want the second buyer in this property to pay more than it's worth and the day it closes to be upside down? And we were informed that they had a BPO, which is a broker price opinion. That means a real estate agent went out, maybe they came to the house, maybe they drove by, maybe they did it at their breakfast table, and they sent the bank a valuation of the property of $245,000, to which the bank, the lender who was servicing it, they could be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, anywhere around the country, said, well, we need $245,000. I said, well, that's not going to happen. Now, unbeknownst to Bruce, because I think the world of him, I ordered an appraisal on the property, and the appraisal came in at $220,000. We sent the licensed appraisal to his lender. And again, I know we're taping, so I will not say his lender. If he wants to, he may, but I won't be saying the lender's name. And miraculously now, they're going to accept the offer, which we really want to be able to hand you the approval letter tonight, and we'll probably have it Friday. So this is what we do 24/7. We document it. You've never seen those graphs on the news media at night. But I will share with you that if you were to stand up and say, can I see yours, and share with your neighbor, there isn't one neighborhood that looks any different.
Right.
Which I think this is what's kind of, so many people kind of feel like, it's just me, I'm the only one in this situation. The maps clearly say something different, and I really applaud you for coming tonight. Mark, did you want to add something to that, as far as statistics?
Well, not to make matters worse, but those gavels indicate that a notice of trustee sale has been issued, meaning the home is in foreclosure. What's not shown on there, because it's not public information, are the number of people who are late with their lender and that are teetering and may be the next gavel on there. There's probably in excess of 11,000 more homes in the Phoenix area that are late on payments that are eventually headed towards the gavel. So if the map that you're looking at isn't bad enough already, there may be more to come.
At this point, the only thing I would have to say when I met Bruce is somebody had told him that had a real estate license, that he could not do a short sale current. To my left is one of my attorneys. We have a whole slew of attorneys that we work with. And Kaveh, I think as a bankruptcy attorney, would you ever tell somebody to stop making their mortgage payment? Can you do that as a bankruptcy attorney?
It's usually not in their best interest. Again, we do an overall debt analysis. So based on the totality of circumstances, we advise you per that, exactly that. And as Bruce said, everyone is in your ear talking to you, giving you advice, saying do this, do that. Even your realtor, everyone is giving you advice, but the only people who know the law are licensed attorneys. And those people who are giving you advice don't know day in and day out what's happening with the laws, what a judge is ruling on, what a judge is saying. So I can't give you a definitive answer about that, but what it comes down to is your overall situation. Your house is one piece of the huge puzzle that goes into getting you out of financial crisis. So what we do is base our advice on the overall debt situation. So the house is a majority of our clients, the house is the driving factor for getting them into the office. And we advise based on the house and the credit card debt, the cars, the repo, the lawsuit. So it's a big debt situation.
Well, and I would say to make the matters even worse, and tell me if anybody else has a similar thing, I was current a year ago, September. I was current. I called my bank, knew that I was upside down 120, 130,000, knew the market wasn't going to turn around anytime soon. I'd been unemployed. I'd spent my savings to keep current. I dipped into all my savings. I cashed in a life insurance. I cashed in a 401k in an effort to stay current with my home. I called my bank and said, I think I need to do a short sale. I've just gotten to the point where I'm going to run out of money at some point here. I can kind of see where this is headed. They said, we can't even talk to a short sale with you unless you're behind 3 months on your payment. And I said, are you telling me not to pay? I can't tell you not to pay. I'm just telling you we won't talk to you until you're behind on by 3 months. I admit it, I'm the idiot. I'm not having people around me. I said, oh, well, don't expect another check. Have a nice day. You know, I hung up the phone. I was like, that was like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Am I supposed to read between the lines here? I'm not telling you not to pay, but I'm telling you not to pay. So, unfortunately, I didn't know that. I probably, had I known what I known, stayed current and completed a short sale, I was getting bad advice from real estate and from the lender themselves. Marge, why would the lender tell me that I have to be behind in order to complete a short sale? What's in it for them?
When you drive the car, do you like to have control?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if the lender tells you to stop making payments, guess who's in control? Because now you're in default.
And now they can pull the strings.
Well, they get to pull the strings any way which way they want. They can dangle a loan modification out in front of you and tell you, ooh, Bruce, how about paying this payment?
Yeah.
Can you afford this? For 6 months. But they don't tell you when you get this temporary loan modification verbally on the phone that you're in default. That doesn't mean that just because they cut your payment by $300 or $400, you're in default right there. And they can accelerate the loan, and then they can tell you in 3 months, well, we're going to foreclose in 2 weeks. There's just so much that most real estate agents are not aware of. I went into one property. Can I share one really nightmare story?
Please.
I called you about this one.
Yes.
I went into one of your listeners' homes one night. Just a delightfully young married couple. He had come back from the war. The wife's name was on the property and on the mortgage. A real estate agent, and I'm a little embarrassed that some of the real estate agents that are out there told this couple to get a divorce. I swear to God, copy. They told me to get a divorce. And I said, but why? And they said, because this is a community property state. I said, but why? I said, your name is not on the loan. I said, I am not an attorney. I cannot give you legal advice. But my husband and I have reached the age where we understand Social Security, and that 10-year span of being married is very important. They've been married 5 years. They wanted to break that with a divorce because 2 people were married and the husband was not on the loan and he was not on the house. I said, I think a real estate agent is practicing law in a capacity they shouldn't be. And they started crying and said, you mean we can stay married? I said, yes, and we did their short sale. And that's one on my side of the story where I'm embarrassed at what my profession said. On the other side of the story, we are incredibly proud of what we do with lenders. I know attorneys, I love when I need to get an attorney involved and I have to use their letterhead. On the other side of the coin, we like to push it as far as we can because the law does not let attorneys do what I can do. I can tape all the calls with the lenders, and we do. We tape every phone call we have with the lenders because some of you have attempted loan modifications. How many of you have sent in paper over and over and over and over again, and then they tell you you didn't send it in and send it again, and God knows your Social Security number's on those documents. What have they done with your Social Security number? Just thought I'd throw that out in front of you. We tape all of our calls. We document everything to the letter. Mark will tell you, as far as lawyer's title goes, I don't think there's another real estate agent that has taken it to the extremes we do. But maybe that's why we have the success ratio that we have if you decide your best choice is a short sale.
Let's get into that, and I think that's for a lot of people that they get to the point. Again, I'll use myself as the example. What should I do? You know, I'd heard about foreclosure, what voluntary foreclosure. You heard me. That's where we met. Jingle mail is I also heard it referred to as just mailing the keys or leave them in the front door and walk away. Short sale. Just continue to make payments on a house that it'll eventually come back around and the market's going to bounce back at some day. We hear a lot of these different things. Give me some pros and cons between them and feel free to share that with the panel.
I'm going to do this. I've got 3 lenders sitting here and I have an attorney sitting here. And so the kindest thing you can do to your credit is a current short sale. Foreclosure is the worst thing you can do, no question about it. Bankruptcy, you can buy a house 2 years after you file a bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is socially acceptable. When we come and visit you and you say, I'm upside down $150,000 on the house, and oh, by the way, I have this many credit card debts, I say, go sit down with Kaveh and let him look at this. And see, you may want to do a short sale and a bankruptcy simultaneously. Why not wipe the whole board slate clean at one time? When it comes to buying a home, if you're current, we've had people that have bought smaller homes, sized down, right after their short sale. Is that possible? And I'm going to ask a couple of my lenders. Leanne, would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely, it's possible. If you can make it all the way through your short sale and not have a late payment and not have bad advice as you did, you can absolutely purchase with an FHA loan again after you close on your short sale. We have to close on the short sale and show that you did make it through and you had no late payments during that time frame, and we look to make sure everything is reporting correctly, but it can be done with an FHA loan after you complete a short sale.
And a financial hardship.
And a financial hardship. You do have to have a financial hardship, which you generally are explaining during your short sale anyways. It has to be a reasonable, it has to be a financial hardship, it has to be a medical hardship, something that is forcing you to make that decision. Generally, they won't accept a just because my house is upside down situation. It has to be something that you're, there's a devastating factor that happens in your family or something to that extent. Maybe you're moving out of state, you're moving across the valley somewhere else. Anything that's just would be a hardship, or you've had a medical, or I've had some people that have had divorce, they don't have the other person helping to make the payment anymore. And as long as you're doing that and you're reducing the amount of your payment, you can't have a higher payment after you do that, then it is something that can be done with an FHA loan.
And I think, Leanne, that's what's one of the important things. We talk about the myths that are out there. My guess is for a lot of you, that's the first time you've heard somebody tell you that. I heard it's going to be 7 years before you can buy a house again, and I think it leads people to try to hold on to that house to the last minute and make what I would consider some really bad financial decisions because they think this is the last house I'm ever going to see, because they're going to run me through the ringer for years and years and years. And people don't realize how quickly you can actually turn around, rebuild yourself, in some cases almost immediately, and still be on your feet financially moving forward. It's not the dire circumstances that I think I've seen painted a lot of times, and I think other people would agree that they've heard some of those horror stories about what it takes and how long it takes to get back into a home.
Rex, would you like to add anything to that?
I'm going to pass that down.
The only thing I really want to add is and Leanne is 100% right, but it is an underwriter's call. Okay, as hard as we try to explain, it's not a black and white situation. It does have to have a human element to come into it. So that's the only thing I really wanted to add.
Yeah. And I think you see, it's one of the things that you hear me harp about and talk about, and one of the things that Marge, I think, is really good at is it takes a team of people working on your side, because in a lot of cases, and those of you that have ever tried to call one of the 800 or 888 numbers know, there's a team of people on their side, for God's sake. It's a different one every time I talk to them, and a variety of different titles and a variety of different levels that you can go through, and they all seem to be working against you. And I can only tell you from my standpoint, regardless of what your situation is, you need to have some experts on your side, because they certainly have some on their side. They certainly know the ins and outs on their side. So let's go and talk a little bit about that. I hope you accept it, and you've heard it from our experts, because this is what I got to, that if I had the option, short sale was my best option. And it was my best option on things like my credit score, and it was my best option as if I were to go and want to buy a house again. And that's how I got to the short sale process myself, as opposed to foreclosure, and as opposed to some of the other things you'd heard out there, voluntary or involuntary, that I would try to go down that path. What kind of effect does a short sale have on your credit score? Because I think a lot of people are concerned about that. A lot of people are concerned, well, what's going to happen? Is it going to fall completely off the page, and how long does it take to come back?
I'm going to say right now, if a real estate agent enters your home and tells you how many points your score is going to drop, do not hire them. Because nobody has the magic formula for FICO, period. If you're going to do a current short sale, think about this. If you're current and you do a short sale and you can buy a house after it closes, your FICO score has to be at least how much to get an FHA loan? 640. So if you started out in your current, it's just going to be a blip on your credit report, because we know we can get you a loan the day after the property closes, if you're current. If you're not going to be current, you're going to have a 30, 60, 90, however many days we're going to be late. 13 months after your short sale ends, your payments will fall off your credit, and your credit will start to come back again. What will happen is if you have a $5,000 Visa or MasterCard credit limit, and if you owe $2,200, they're going to cut your credit limit more than likely to $2,200 because they're not sure what's going on here. Are you going to file bankruptcy? If they at least stop you from having any more credit, they're going to, and that's going to change your FICO scores, because now instead of owing half of your credit limit, you're going to owe 100% of that. Would you like to add anything to that, Rex or Chris?
Well, Chris, I was going to ask you, because I think that might be applicable to some people. What about VA loans, and what about the effect that that has?
If any of you have VA eligibility, it's a terrific loan, 0 down. It requires a 620 credit score, and if you had a foreclosure, there's only a 2-year waiting period, and with extenuating circumstances, a 1 year. So if anybody has a VA, you've served our country and you're eligible, it's a terrific loan, and it's really a little bit easier to get into a VA loan after a short sale foreclosure.
Good. And I was wondering, and I wanted to get into this because I hear a lot about HUD and HUD 1 and things like this. Mark, can you help us understand a little bit of what's going on in that world and how this affects us?
Sure. From a title company standpoint, as I mentioned earlier, we're behind the scenes helping with paperwork. It's very important to have a rapid turnaround on preparing the HUD 1 settlement statement, which basically just shows the sales price that you're starting with, reduces it by the outstanding liens against the property, backs out any closing costs, and comes down to, in a normal transaction, it would come down to the proceeds due to the seller. With a short sale, obviously, there are no proceeds due to the seller, but it shows the bank how much of a shortfall there is going to be on the transaction, and as a result, helps them make the decision on how quickly they're going to approve that letter, how they're going to negotiate that transaction. So we get those out right away. Marge and her team many times prepare those themselves so that there's no time lost in getting an idea of where everybody stands in the transaction and what the financial ramifications are. So that is if you hear a verbiage of a HUD 1 or the settlement statement, that is what takes place at that point in time. And again, there's just obviously a need for speed in getting those taken care of so that they can move forward with the transaction.
I want to address something to Rex a little bit. We hear about a lot of government programs. Some of you may have applied for some of these. It seems like there's talk always of another one that might come along, and I think Rex might be unique in helping us understand about the existing programs out there. I'll be kind and say their effectiveness, and what do you see the government doing moving forward?
Well, that's a good question. Everybody here, how many are confident in our government right now? We've had several programs come out and introduced, and we were all wowed by them at first, but when we looked at them seriously, there was holes, there was very few people, very narrow band of people could benefit by them, and it's been an absolute flop. And there's talk of doing some kind of a blanket refinance for the entire country. There's talk about this and that, but the bottom line is, really, we don't know, and we don't really want to base a decision now on a future thing that may not happen. And so, not to be negative about these programs, but honestly, there's so many good loan programs available for new purchases and for some refinances. But all in all, There's an awful lot of hype. There's more hype than there is solid stuff.
I'll ask the same question, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, and throw it out to the panel also. The banks and the lenders will talk to you about all these options and programs and plans that they have, mortgage modifications. They have a variety of acronyms that we've operated under, and I won't even go through all those. How effective are those, and are those should you try a modification program before you even get to a short sale or anything other than that? Yeah, Marge wants that.
In your packages, you're going to see some little graphs that when I started doing a short sale transaction about 5 years ago, and Tammy is walking around, she's picking up some of the yellow questions. If you've got a question card filled out, just hold up the yellow card and Tammy will pick it up, bring it up to Bruce. In your package, you'll see two graphs that will show you what an amortized loan looks like and an interest-only loan. And people would say to me 5 years ago, Marge, we're just going to ride this out. We're going to wait till our home comes back in value. So I went back to the office, and again, by the grace of God, I've got the most amazing team. Bill Wetton used to be a CPA, and I said, Bill, I know you understand Excel, help me out here. So the first chart that has the straight line, the black line going across it, shows a $350,000 interest-only loan. The property being worth about $180,000. In most markets, some of them would be less than that, is indicated by the green line. If, it's the only thing that's fictitious here, if we were appreciating at 4% today, and we're not, that homeowner would be upside down for 18 years. If you waited for 3 years, which back when this chart was done, 3 years is what it would take you before you could buy another home again, you'd be able to buy in the same neighborhood for less than $200,000. So, and then somebody said, well, my loan's amortized. So the next chart will show you an amortization chart. And to me, the ticking time bomb that nobody is talking about, and at some point we'll talk about, is December 31st, 2012. Nobody talks about that, just like nobody shows you the gavels. I know everybody just like TiVo's through everything now. You don't watch local news stations anymore, and we all go out. But there are some things coming up that if they're not extended, that are going to be, can you imagine being upside down, and if you don't get out of the home you're in by December 31st, 2012, and if you actually go to IRS, and this is also in your package, it's called the Mortgage Forgiveness, Debt Relief Act, and Debt Cancellation. If you do a short sale, or if you do a foreclosure, you will get a 1099 for the difference between what you owe and what the property sells for. You will get a 1099. Right now, you get to file a Form 982 if it's your primary residence, Bruce. It was purchase money, and it's less than $2 million. After December 31st, 2012, unless the government extends this, because I know right now Washington is really flush with money, so I'm sure they'll all do that. Or I've heard some people say that they feel this is going to stop people from short selling their homes, and it's going to make them stay in them. Because then they'll have the tax consequence for the difference. Which right now, if that's a 38% difference, how would you like to pay a 38% difference on what your home is worth? And it's kind of like saying, you know, I don't care how, I'm old enough to have seen the original Titanic movie in black and white. The ship sunk. And then it did. And then there was a love story with a diamond, and the ship sunk. And so I don't know if the government has got something that's big enough that's going to put a Band-Aid on the gash in the Titanic. But if you look at your little map, and you look at the one next to you, and you look at the one next to you, and this is the part that concerns me. In my presentation, I call this the ticking time bomb. That to me is kind of like saying, how long do you want to wait to get off the Titanic and make a decision or speak to an attorney and know what your true choices are? Because it's going to take forever. And the loan modification The lenders aren't doing principal reductions. If you look at that graph, if somebody lowers your interest rate from 6 to 3, you're still upside down. And if you have to sell your house and it gets past December 31st, 2012, where are you at?
I have a ton of questions, and I want to start getting to those because I think they'll also address a lot of the things that people are coming up with, and I want the panel to jump in when they can. And hopefully, although I may not be able to get to every one of them, there's a lot of them that have overlap and are similar questions. So here's something, and I've heard this before. What if I don't want to move? I'm upside down in a house. I don't have any great financial hardship, but I don't want to leave my house. Are there any options for me?
Everybody has a hardship. Look at your chart that's in front of you that I gave you, and if you would like to even think about selling your home, you have a financial hardship because now the property is not worth what you can sell it for, so the difference, we tell the lender, because you cannot sell it, because you're not going to pay the difference. Okay, Bruce at one point was very current on his loan. So I sat and I said, Bruce, tell me your situation. And he did. And then I sat and wrote a hardship letter for him, and I said, Bruce, this must be 110% the truth before you sign it. And he read it and he said, well, that's exactly what I said. Bruce is employed. We hear him every morning. It's not like he didn't have a job. That's a real financial hardship. All of you've got a hardship just because your properties have devalued, and it's how it's written. There is no rule book that says a lender says that you must do this or this. You send in the whole package and let them decide. Keeping in mind that most of these people have had their jobs for what now, about 6 months? I mean, I'm working with incredibly competent people that have real seniority at their jobs. It's not like we're working with vice presidents of lending corporations. We're working with people that, how many people were working in the short sale department 4 or 5 years ago? Nobody really has any job strength. They have a checklist, hardship letter, bank statements, taxes, and they check it off.
Everybody up here is a homeowner as well, or understands that, and it's a very emotional thing for people. And I think it's very difficult for a lot of folks to think about losing their home on any level. If you're upside down though, and you're having trouble making the payments, are there very many other options? Is there some magic thing we haven't talked about?
There's going to be a loan modification where if the lender wants to reduce your interest rate and you're going to have to show them that they can do this, they may not do it permanently. We just actually talked with somebody last week that they took their 30-year loan, they lowered the payment by $600, and they extended the loan for 45 years. It took me about 4 minutes to figure out that the yield was so much higher than the original loan because they never reduced the principal balance. They just extended 15 more years of making a payment a couple $100 less. You have to decide how badly you want to stay in that home. Kavi, do you have any other ideas as to, sometimes depending upon your lender, if the lender is not calling for an arm's length transaction, there's one particular lender, without mentioning any names, that absolutely says that the buyer cannot buy the house and rent it to the existing homeowner. There is one lender. When I come to your home, I can tell you who that lender is. I don't ever do that when I'm sitting on the tape. All the other lenders, if the approval letter says, this is what we'll do a short sale, we've actually had homeowners that have made their own arrangements with the buyer where they've actually rented their home back for a payment considerably less than what they're paying.